The glass windows of Langston Technologies tower gleamed against the Seattle skyline. As Mark Langston paced frantically across his corner office, phone pressed against his ear. At 42, the billionaire CEO had built an empire, but right now, none of that mattered. His hands trembled as he waited for news about the one person who meant everything to him. "Come on, pick up," he muttered, running his fingers through his dark hair. The call that would change his life forever was about to come through, but he had no idea that a waitress across town was already becoming the answer to his prayers. 20 minutes away, in Murphy's Diner on Capitol Hill, Emma Carter balanced 3 plates on her left arm while pouring coffee with her right. At 28, she moved through the cramped restaurant with practiced efficiency, her warm smile never faltering despite the exhaustion that had become her constant companion. The breakfast rush was in full swing, and every tip mattered when you were 3 months behind on rent. "Order up for table 6, called Dave, the gruff cook, sliding another plate across the pass. Emma grabbed it and headed toward the corner booth where Leo sat with his caregiver, Mrs. Henderson. The 9-year-old boy rocked gently in his seat, his fingers tracing patterns on the worn Formica table. Leo had autism, and loud noises or sudden movements could trigger overwhelming episodes. Emma had learned this over the past few weeks as they'd become regulars. "Hey there, sweetie," Emma said softly, approaching at Leo's eye level. She'd noticed early on that direct eye contact sometimes distressed him, so she focused on placing his pancakes just so, arranged exactly how he liked them. Extra syrup on the side, just like always. Leo's rocking slowed slightly. For the briefest moment, his eyes met hers, and Emma's heart swelled. These tiny connections had been building over their visits, each one feeling like a small miracle. "He's having a rough morning, Mrs. Henderson whispered, worry creasing her features. "His father's been traveling again, and the routine change is hard on him." Emma nodded, understanding flooding her chest. She pulled a small pad from her apron and quickly sketched a simple smiley face, sliding it across to Leo. "Sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I draw happy faces. Want to try?" But what happened next shocked everyone in that diner. Leo, who rarely responded to anyone outside his immediate family, picked up the pen with shaking fingers and drew a wobbly circle. Then another. "Mrs. Henderson gasped softly, covering her mouth with her hand. "That's beautiful, Leo," Emma encouraged gently. "You're an artist, just like me." Meanwhile, back at Langston Technologies, Mark's phone finally rang. The caller ID showed Mrs. Henderson's number, and his heart nearly stopped. "Mr. Langston, I think you need to come to Murphy's Diner right away," came the caregiver's urgent voice. "It's about Leo. Something incredible is happening." Mark didn't ask questions. He grabbed his keys and raced toward the elevator, his mind spinning with possibilities. Leo had been struggling more than usual lately, especially after Mark's recent business trips to London and Tokyo. The guilt of leaving his son gnawed at him daily, but the company demanded his presence worldwide. Being a single father to a child with special needs while running a billion-dollar corporation felt impossible most days. Little did Mark know that 20 minutes away, his son was experiencing the first genuine connection he'd made with a stranger in years. Back at the diner, Emma watched Leo carefully add eyes to his circle, creating his first deliberate smiley face. The breakthrough was subtle but unmistakable. Mrs. Henderson was quietly crying, and even gruff Dave had stopped cooking to watch from the kitchen window. "Look what you made, Leo," Emma said, her voice thick with emotion. "That's going to make someone very happy today." Leo looked up at her again, this time holding her gaze for 3 full seconds before returning to his drawing. In a world where everything often felt chaotic and overwhelming to him, Emma's presence had created a pocket of calm. Emma's phone buzzed with a text from her landlord, another demand for rent, another threat of eviction. But she pushed the worry aside, focusing entirely on the boy who seemed to find peace in her presence. She had no idea that his father was one of the most powerful men in the city, or that her simple act of kindness was about to turn both their lives upside down. The diner's bell chimed as Mark burst through the door, his expensive suit completely out of place among the vinyl booths and checkered floors. His eyes frantically searched until they landed on the corner booth where his son sat. calm and focused, drawing alongside a kind-faced waitress. This decision would change everything for all three of them, but the real shock was still coming. Mark's heart pounds as he pushes through the diner's glass door, the familiar chime announcing his arrival. The midday crowd buzzes with conversation and clinking silverware, but his eyes immediately find Leo at the corner booth. His 8-year-old son sits rigid, hands pressed firmly over his ears, rocking back and forth in obvious distress. "Mr. Langston, thank goodness you're here," whispers Maria, Leo's caregiver, rushing to meet him. He had another meltdown when that group at table 6 started laughing too loudly. "I tried everything we practiced, but nothing's working." Mark approaches slowly, his CEO confidence crumbling as he watches his son struggle. Leo's eyes are squeezed shut, and soft whimpers escape his lips. This is exactly why Mark keeps their outings limited, controlled, predictable. Then something remarkable happens. A waitress with warm brown eyes and gentle hands kneels beside Leo's booth. "Hey there, buddy," Emma says softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know it's really loud in here, isn't it?" Mark freezes, watching as this stranger does what he's struggled to do for years. Emma doesn't try to touch Leo or force eye contact. Instead, she begins humming a simple melody while slowly placing napkins on the table in a neat, organized pattern. "The napkins like to line up just right, don't they?" she continues in that same soothing tone. 1, 2, 3. Perfect rows. Leo's rocking gradually slows. His hands lower slightly from his ears. "I have something special back in the kitchen," Emma whispers, maintaining her gentle rhythm. "Would you like to see the way I stack the plates? They make the most satisfying towers." For the first time in months, Leo opens his eyes and looks directly at another person. Mark's breath catches in his throat. Emma leads Leo behind the counter, showing him the organized kitchen stations. "See how everything has its place. The forks go here, the knives here, and the spoons right there." She demonstrates each movement slowly, deliberately. Leo watches intently, then reaches out and straightens a slightly crooked spoon. Emma smiles. "Perfect. You have excellent attention to detail." 20 minutes pass before Leo returns to the booth, calm and even managing small bites of his sandwich. Mark stands in stunned silence, processing what just happened. "Excuse me," he approaches Emma as she refills coffee cups. "I'm Mark Langston, Leo's father. What you just did. How did you know?" Emma looks up, wiping her hands on her apron. "I didn't know anything special. I just watched what he needed." She pauses, studying Mark's expensive suit and worried expression. "He's a beautiful kid. Very smart. He hasn't connected with anyone like that since." Mark's voice trails off. "Are you trained in special education? Therapy?" "No, sir. I just work here." Emma's smile fades slightly. "Is everything okay?" Mark glances back at Leo, who's now quietly arranging sugar packets while Maria watches in amazement. An idea forms in his mind, desperate, unconventional, but potentially life-changing. "Emma, right?" He reads her name tag. "This might sound strange, but would you be interested in spending some time with Leo? Outside of work, I mean. I could pay you well for your time." Emma's eyes widen. "I don't understand. You want me to babysit?" "Not exactly babysit. More like, be his friend. Help him with social interactions." Mark runs his hand through his hair, suddenly aware of how this must sound. Leo starts a new school program in 2 weeks, and he's terrified. He doesn't connect with people easily, but with you, Mr. Langston, I don't have any training with special needs children. I work double shifts here and pick up catering jobs on weekends just to make rent." The honesty in her voice hits Mark like a physical blow. This woman, who just performed a miracle with his son, is struggling to survive while he throws money at every problem. "Please," he says quietly, "just think about it. Leo needs someone who understands him naturally, not someone with degrees and techniques. He needs someone like you." Emma looks past him to Leo, who catches her eye and gives her the smallest wave. Her heart melts a little. "I suppose I could try," she says slowly, "but I can only do evenings and Sunday afternoons." "That's perfect. I'll pay you $200 for each session." Emma nearly drops her coffee pot. $200 would cover her electric bill, her phone payment, and still leave money for groceries. But something about this feels too good to be true. Why is this so important to you? She asks. Mark's facade finally cracks. Because Leo is all I have left, and I'm failing him. His mother died when he was 3, and I've been trying to do this alone ever since. I work 16-hour days running a company, but I can't figure out how to help my own son feel safe in the world. The vulnerability in his voice surprises them both. Emma sees past the expensive clothes and commanding presence to a desperate father who would do anything for his child. Okay, she says softly. Let's try. As Mark shakes her hand, neither of them notices the woman at table 12 discreetly taking photos with her phone. Neither realizes that their innocent agreement is about to thrust them both into a spotlight that will change their lives forever. But that's when something changed everything. The morning after Mark's unexpected offer, Emma stares at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror of her tiny apartment. The weight of his words still echoes in her mind. Extra income means she could finally catch up on rent, maybe even fix her car's broken transmission. But something about the whole situation feels too good to be true. I can do this, she whispers to herself, grabbing her worn purse. It's just helping a kid, nothing more. 3 hours later, Emma finds herself in an upscale neighborhood she's only seen in magazines. The Langston house towers before her, all glass and modern lines that seem to pierce the sky. Her beat-up Honda looks painfully out of place in the circular driveway. Mark greets her at the door, his usual confident demeanor replaced by something more vulnerable. Emma, thank you for coming. Leo's been asking about the nice lady from the restaurant all morning. Inside, the house feels more like a museum than a home. Emma notices the absence of personal touches. Family photos relegated to a single shelf in the corner. Leo sits cross-legged on the pristine white carpet, ranging toy cars in perfect rows. Hi, Leo, Emma says softly, settling down beside him. Can you show me your cars? For the next 2 hours, Emma watches Leo slowly emerge from his shell. She doesn't force conversation or interaction. Instead, she mirrors his movements, organizing her own imaginary cars alongside his. When he finally looks up and hands her a blue sedan, her heart nearly bursts. Mark observes from the kitchen doorway, his coffee growing cold in his hands. He's hired the best specialists money can buy, yet none of them achieved what Emma accomplished in a single morning. There's something almost magical about her approach, patient, intuitive, completely genuine. But you know what they say about things that seem too good to be true. Over the following weeks, Emma splits her time between the diner and the Langston house. Her connection with Leo deepens with each visit. He begins using more words, making eye contact, even laughing at her silly jokes. For the first time in months, Emma feels like she's making a real difference in someone's life. The arrangement works perfectly until the Tuesday morning, when Emma's phone buzzes with a text from her friend Jessica. Girl, you need to see this article right now. Emma's hands shake as she opens the link. The headline hits her like a physical blow. Billionaire CEO uses Waitress in publicity stunt to repair damaged reputation after recent corporate scandal. The article paints a devastating picture. According to unnamed sources, Mark Langston orchestrated the entire relationship between Emma and Leo as a calculated move to humanize his image following a recent data privacy lawsuit that cost his company millions. Emma is described as an unwitting pawn in an elaborate public relations scheme. The CEO has been photographed multiple times with the young waitress and his autistic son, creating a heartwarming narrative that conveniently overshadows his company's recent legal troubles. The article reads, sources close to Langston suggest this is all part of a carefully crafted campaign to rebuild public trust. Emma's vision blurs as she reads further. Every genuine moment she shared with Leo, every breakthrough they celebrated together, was it all just content for Mark's image rehabilitation? The extra money he offered, the grateful smiles, the way he seemed to actually care about her opinion, was none of it real? Her phone rings. Mark's name flashes on the screen. Emma, I need to explain. He begins the moment she answers. Explain what? Emma's voice cracks with anger and hurt. Explain how you've been using me. Using Leo? How everything I thought was real was just some sick game to make you look better in the press. It's not what you think. Yes, my company has been under scrutiny, but that has nothing to do with Save it, Mark. I should have known better. Rich guys like you don't just randomly help people like me unless there's something in it for you. The silence stretches between them, heavy with unspoken truths and shattered trust. Are you going to keep seeing Leo? Mark asks quietly. Emma closes her eyes, thinking of Leo's shy smile, the way he lit up when she arrived each day. But how can she continue when everything feels tainted by deception? I don't know, she whispers and hangs up. But as Emma sits in her empty apartment, staring at a drawing Leo made her, a simple house with two stick figures holding hands, she realizes there's something the article got completely wrong. Something that changes everything she thought she knew about Mark Langston's true motives. The fluorescent lights of the diner cast harsh shadows across Emma's face. As she stared at the newspaper article on her phone, her hands trembling with rage, the headline blazed across the screen. Billionaire CEO uses autistic son, and poor waitress in publicity stunt to repair damaged reputation. Mark walked through the diner doors just as Emma's shift was ending, but she was already marching toward him with fire in her eyes. Is this what I am to you? She demanded, thrusting the phone in his face. Some kind of prop in your little PR campaign? A feel-good story to make people forget about your company's scandals? Mark's face went pale as he read the article. Emma, I swear to you, I had nothing to do with this. I would never. Don't, Emma's voice cracked with emotion. Don't you dare lie to me. I've been wondering why a billionaire CEO would care about some nobody waitress helping his kid. Now I know. You needed a person like me, poor, struggling, disposable, to make yourself look like a hero. The few remaining customers in the diner had gone silent, sensing the tension crackling between them. Mark ran his hands through his hair, his composure finally cracking. You want the truth? His voice was raw, vulnerable in a way she'd never heard before. The truth is that Leo hasn't spoken a full sentence to anyone outside our family in 3 years. Not to therapists, not to teachers, not to me half the time. But with you, he talks. He laughs. For the first time since my wife died, I see glimpses of the happy boy he used to be. Emma felt her anger wavering, but she forced herself to stay strong. So you thought you'd just use that? Turn our connection into some kind of marketing opportunity? No. Mark's voice broke. I'm a single father who works 18-hour days trying to build something meaningful. And somewhere along the way, I lost my son. When I saw you with Leo that first day, the way you looked at him like he mattered, like he wasn't just a problem to be solved. He stopped, his eyes glistening. I was desperate, Emma. Not for good publicity, but for my son to have a chance at happiness. But what really got to Emma was watching him continue, his voice barely above a whisper. I know what it's like to fight for survival. I grew up in a trailer park in Ohio, worked 3 jobs to put myself through college. I remember what it felt like to be dismissed, to have people assume the worst about your motives. I would never do that to someone else. Emma studied his face, searching for deception, but finding only raw honesty. Still, the sting of betrayal ran deep. Then where did this article come from? She demanded. Mark pulled out his own phone, his jaw set with determination. I'm about to find out. But first, I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth about what kind of person you really are. Within minutes, Mark had composed a statement on his company's official social media accounts, defending Emma and calling out the false narrative. But as they watched the responses pour in, Emma's stomach dropped. The backlash was immediate and vicious. Look what you've done, she whispered, scrolling through comment after comment attacking both of them. Now they're saying I'm your mistress, that this whole thing is even more fake than before. Mark's face hardened as he read the cruel speculation about their relationship, the accusations about Emma being a gold digger. I'm going to fix this, he said firmly. I'll hold a press conference, provide documentation of every interaction we've had. I'll make them understand. You'll make it worse, Emma's voice rose in desperation. Don't you see? The more you defend me, the more guilty we look. Rich man protects poor woman, they'll never believe it's innocent. But as Emma looked around the diner, where she'd spent countless hours serving customers, who barely acknowledged her existence, something shifted inside her. She thought about Leo's smile when she'd taught him to draw butterflies on napkins, about the way his face lit up when she remembered he liked his pancakes cut into perfect triangles. You know what? She said, her voice growing stronger. Let them think whatever they want. I know why I'm here. I'm here because Leo deserves someone who sees him for who he really is, not what his diagnosis says he can't do. Mark looked at her with something that might have been admiration. You're remarkable, you know that. But before Emma could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed her apartment complex's management office, and her blood ran cold as she answered. Miss Carter, this is regarding your eviction notice. Due to the recent media attention and complaints from other tenants about reporters harassing residents, we're accelerating your move-out date. You have 48 hours. Emma's face went white as she hung up the phone. Mark immediately stepped forward, but she held up a hand to stop him. Let me guess, she said bitterly. Now you're going to offer to solve all my problems with your checkbook? But the biggest surprise was still coming. The morning sun streams through the large windows of Mark's penthouse as he sits across from Emma. At his kitchen table, Leo contentedly drawing between them. 3 months have passed since their confrontation, and the transformation is remarkable. Leo, who once struggled to make eye contact with anyone, now looks directly at Emma as she gently guides his hand across the paper. See how you made that circle, Leo? That's perfect, Emma says softly, her voice filled with genuine pride. Leo beams, something that would have been impossible just months ago. Mark watches in amazement as his son responds with a clarity he's never seen before. Emma, I need you to know something, Mark begins, his voice thick with emotion. When I first saw you with Leo that day in the diner, I was desperate. I'd tried everything: specialists, therapists, programs that cost more than most people make in a year. Nothing worked. But you saw him, really saw him. Emma's eyes glisten as she remembers that first encounter. I saw a beautiful boy who just needed someone to understand his language, she replies, gently squeezing Leo's hand. He was never broken, Mark. He just needed someone to listen. The moment is interrupted by Leo himself, who suddenly looks up and speaks clearly. Emma, will you come to my art show? The words hang in the air like magic. Mark's jaw drops. Leo has never initiated a conversation like this before. Emma gasps, tears streaming down her face. Leo, you want me at your art show? Yes, Leo nods enthusiastically. You helped me draw. You're my friend. Mark can barely contain his emotions as he witnesses this breakthrough. This isn't just progress, it's a miracle born from Emma's unwavering patience and genuine care. The art show Leo mentioned is at a specialized program Mark enrolled him in, after seeing how Emma's creative approach worked so well. But the surprises don't end there. Mark stands up, pulling out an official-looking document. Emma, there's something else. Remember how you mentioned wanting to go back to school for special education? I've established the Emma Carter Foundation for Autism Awareness. You're not just the namesake, you're the director. Full salary, benefits, and we're covering your master's degree program. Emma stares at the papers in disbelief. Mark, I can't accept this. It's too much. It's not charity, Emma. It's recognition of your gift. The foundation has already received applications from hundreds of families across the country. They need what you have to offer. Leo needs you to share this gift with other families. Through her tears, Emma realizes this isn't just about her anymore. There are so many children like Leo out there, she whispers, understanding the magnitude of what Mark is offering. Exactly, Mark nods. And there are parents like me who've lost hope. You didn't just change Leo's life, Emma. You changed mine. You showed me that being a CEO means nothing if I can't be the father my son needs. The transformation in Mark is undeniable. Gone is the distant, business-focused executive. In his place sits a man who's learned that true success isn't measured in profit margins, but in moments like these, watching his son thrive under the care of someone who saw his potential when no one else could. Emma looks at Leo, who's now showing her his drawing, a picture of the three of them at the diner. Stick figures holding hands. This is us, Leo explains proudly. Emma, Daddy, and me. We're happy. Yes, we are, Emma laughs through her tears, pulling both Mark and Leo into a warm embrace. 6 months later, Emma stands before a packed auditorium, delivering her first keynote speech about autism awareness. In the front row, Mark holds Leo's hand as his son watches Emma with admiration. The foundation has already helped over 50 families, and Emma's unique approach is being studied by universities nationwide. Every child deserves someone who believes in them, Emma tells the audience. Every parent deserves hope. And sometimes, the most profound changes happen in the simplest moments, like sharing a meal, drawing a picture, or simply listening with your heart. The standing ovation is thunderous, but Emma's attention is focused on Leo, who's clapping enthusiastically and mouthing "That's my Emma" to the person next to him. As they leave the venue together, Mark reflects on how a chance encounter in a small diner led to this incredible journey. Emma, once struggling to make ends meet, now has a platform to change lives globally. Leo, once isolated in his own world, now thrives in connecting with others. And Mark has learned that true leadership means lifting others up, not just climbing higher yourself. Their story proves that kindness is never wasted, that every person has the power to change a life, and that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships create the most beautiful transformations. Emma's simple act of compassion didn't just feed an autistic boy, it nourished 3 souls, and countless others who would benefit from their shared journey. What simple act of kindness have you witnessed that changed everything? Share your story in the comments below, because you never know whose life you might transform with your words of hope and encouragement.